want to welcome you to just this little chat. I'm so excited. I was saying to Thandile that we've had a few other chats with women in different spheres of the industry. And I'm particularly excited about this chat that we're going to have this evening, because I guess the conversation has morphed over the last few years, and you are both going to be speaking from different standpoints. So before we get deep into it, please can you, and I think we're going to start with Thandile and then we are going to go to Candice. Thandile, please tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are in your life right now.
Well, Thandile Ngxikwe. I'm a student. I don't know, it's always very weird for me to introduce myself, because I don't know where to start, where to end, what must come in the middle, but I'll just, I'm from Delft. I love to let everyone know, but I'm a township girl, because I think that makes up so much of my identity and what I've come to stand for, you know what I mean? So, but like where I am in my life, genuinely, I'm a student and I'm very much into things which feed me as an individual, or like my passions are my experiences and making sure, especially the negative ones, and making sure that other people like me don't necessarily have to go through those experiences. So that's just where I am.
Yeah.
Just living life, trying to enjoy it because Coco. But you know what? We move. That's me.
So no, you are actually involved in a very particular group or movement. Can you tell us about that?
Well, the group or the movement I'm part of is Untamed. So essentially, Untamed is a girl group focusing particularly on embracing our natural hair. It's a lot of POC, but we accept everyone and every natural out there. So essentially, we just like, sis, you know what, your hair has been oppressed for so many years by policies and just by society in general. So like, you know what, let that crown hair loose, just do you. So that's the movement I'm part of, yeah.
Love it. Moving on to Candice. Candice, you inspire me. I actually read your recent post about your hair and I just cut it all off. And I so related to everything you wrote, because I've done the big chop many times and have had to, at least from the first time, restructure how I felt about myself. Can you tell us about who you are, what you do, all of those things?
I could take all night, so I'm going to try and compress it as much as possible, because I'm crazy, so I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm Candice Fielding. I'm originally from Mitchell's Plain. That's my hometown. I've done a bit of educating. So I studied graphic design initially. Moved on to teaching creative arts at high school. So I did that for about 9 years. And then I decided to go into my own business, which was Scoop Republic as a brand, just a natural hair enthusiast brand, which spiraled into a hairstyling service for naturals. And from there, I started working with my naturals. I'm dabbling in product development, so I've been doing that. I am a mom. I'm a full-time momtrepreneur, so I'm an entrepreneur and a mommy, and loving it, enjoying it. And other than that, I'm just a colorful, crazy, wonderful person living in this crazy, wonderful world, man.
Yeah, and I love it. I think for both of you, you can see the importance of just making the most of where you are and what you're doing right now. So we are here today because the common thread is school, right? We have all had to pass through school. Some of us have had longer schooling experiences than others, and some of us have had very I think more traumatizing schooling experiences than others. Candice, you went to school, but we are not necessarily interviewing you because you went to school, and we will speak about your schooling experience, but you have been a teacher.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us about that. How long were you a high school teacher for, and tell us about the attitudes towards natural hair and just your experience there.
I started teaching in 2009. And I did that for about 9 years. It's high school, so hair is very important on high school because image is a thing, whatever else. So from a teacher's perspective, I walked into a school as a natural.
Yes.
So my hair was all over the place, and it took a lot for the staff to get used to me.
Right.
And of course, with me being in front of the classroom, girls started looking up to me and they were like, but I have hair like this. And obviously me just encouraging it because that's the type of cool teacher I am. I didn't think it was like a thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, at the time, I think maybe around 2011, 2012, things started becoming a bit shaky when it came to the way people wear their hair at school. Now, most schools have a code of conduct, and then you have some schools which are more Model C schools, which are totally cool with people having natural.
Yes.
It's more the local schools that have a problem with it. So, code of conduct, it never says anything about not wearing your natural hair.
Exactly.
That is the school's code of conduct. As far as I'm concerned, it's not really in there.
Exactly.
So many words. But what they do base it on is like it's a hairstyle. And based on that, it's an appropriate hairstyle. So it's not seen as, you know, just wearing your hair. It seems like a hairstyle. So anyway, from that perspective, there are a few rules and regulations that restricted a lot of the students when it came to wearing their natural hair. But the timing was perfect when I was teaching. Because at this time, the shizzle was hitting the fizzle. You know what I'm saying? So people were up, and at this point, when our principal did want to get involved, it was too hot. The seat was way too hot for him to sit in, and he just let it be.
Yeah.
I mean, there were comments made from teachers, there were preferences, there were side comments. The principal did have a problem with it at the beginning, but thankfully there was someone on the inside that could defend the girls in other. And I think one of the biggest things was the uniformity. Principals and teachers were always worried, like, what about the uniformity of things? And so that became the debate between the students and the teachers at the time, is that I want to wear my hair like this, but you're telling me how to wear it like this. And there is protocol involved in having natural hair. It's not just about doing whatever you want to. There's a responsibility. So yeah, it was a very interesting time for me to be there, because that was basically the beginning of the movement. And I happened to be a teacher at the time, so I could kind of facilitate that a little bit more. But some schools were not that lucky, so it got a bit hot, because it is also political. It does have its roots as well. So yeah, it was a really interesting time, man.
Yeah, and I can imagine, you know, I'm going to say, being a person of color, and especially a colored person in South Africa, I'm going to say, for me, being non-white means being black, but being a person of color, hair is a very important thing. And there are so many different hairstyles that one can do with their natural hair. So I can imagine the debates about a hairstyle, you know, what constitutes a good hair, a good natural hairstyle in school.
And what's conservative, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Right.
And of course, not having the knowledge of natural hair in itself, and then still the difference between whether it's a style or whether it's natural, you know, it's a forever debate.
Right. Because also, the thing is that there's also the length topic. I mean, when I was in, I guess, Model C school, it's like, okay, don't wear your hair open if it's longer than. But then when you have an afro, how can you tell how long the hair is, you know? Wow. Okay. So we're going to carry on with this conversation, but Thandile, tell us a little bit about your schooling experience and natural hair.
Hey, to be honest, for me, it was very different, because I went to schools where the racial dynamics were, it was colored people and black people.
Right.
So you know, you don't want to find the relations where you don't necessarily think you're going to find the relations where you're being discriminated because of your hair type, because exactly what you said, when you're a colored person, you automatically viewed as black. So my parents never thought that my hair was going to become a problem, but it was, because even though I live in a black and colored community, we both know nothing about each other's cultures and about the way in which our hair grows out. Our parents, when they try and groom our hair, they straighten it or they relax it or they blow it out. And that stems from the standard of beauty at the time, because we grew up in like the early 2000s where if you're not braiding your hair, you're straightening it. There was no in between.
Yeah.
So when you come to find someone who's a natural, everyone would be on a tip of, what are you trying to do? So it was always viewed as rebellion in my school. Because I remember my sister had her sides cut off. Rihanna had that style at the time. She cut off her sides and then she braided the middle.
Yeah.
That hand looked like a piece of cake. But at school, she got called and they told her, well, your style is inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And for me, one thing I've come to realize now, especially now that I'm older, because at that time, I didn't understand why it is that I can't wear my natural hair. It was always been seen cheaper or tidier to keep my hair straight, or cornrowed, or in braids. But even the braids are restricted. It's either black or brown. That is called your natural hair color. But my natural hair color has never been black or brown. It's a reddish, orangish color. So I was always very stuck in between. Like it was always a very confusing time when it comes to do your hair, because you would love to keep your hair the way it grows out of your head, because I can't help that my hair grows out in an afro, but the school always said neat, and afros or curls were never viewed as neat. And even though the school was a colored and black school, the policy of the school was not accommodative to the identities that reside in the schools. And during the whole 2016 hair movement, my school was honestly in isolation. Also because in most township schools, you tend to find that teachers that are younger don't necessarily come to those schools. They go for like bigger heights. And my school is deep within the Cape Flats, you know what I mean? So it was predominantly older teachers who aren't really up to, you know, the discussions around transformation in a lot of aspects in society in general. So when that came about, many people started wearing like longer braids or colorful braids, because they were like, I don't understand how the color blonde or the color red is disruptive to the school not continuing. I don't understand how me wearing my afro or having ponytails is disruptive towards the school. So those are the only, but for me, it was a thing of, you would always be reprimanded for those kind of expressions of our identities. Because we were getting to a point where in the country, people are standing up because they're like, let me wear my hair the way I want to wear it. And the teachers were so confused. I remember this one teacher, we went to her and she was like, for yellow juntos, this, and you were like, make it make sense, ma'am. Because like, it's the way my hair grows out of my head. And braids are an authentically black thing. You know what I mean? So for me, school was a tough time when it came to my hair. It really was a tough time.
I'm so interested, and I love that both of you actually brought up this point in different ways. Like Candice, you came in saying, okay, there was no one else in, you know, in and amongst you as the teachers who had hair like you. And then Thandile saying that, listen, most of the teachers were older because all the young ones went to the newer schools. And I've had a teaching stint myself, and also taught in at least a tertiary college, where people are looking at you like, wow, you're wearing differently, your hair looks differently. And so I think one of the bigger things is that we don't have enough young teachers who are forward thinking or new blood in our schools, especially in our community schools. Now we do. Yeah, I think before maybe not.
No.
And so policies, especially maybe around the time that you were teaching, Candice, the policies etc., don't really change, and there's no, and because younger girls are not seeing this simulated by the people that they look up to, educators, you know. So I love that you said also that there was someone to fight for them from the inside. So can you please maybe speak about, Candice, about just the process of what were some of the things that people were saying? Was it a foreign concept? Why were people fighting for neater or different standards of hair in terms of not our natural hair? What is some of the reasoning?
Look, if you look at the bigger picture of the society that we live in, like I'm from Mitchell's Plain, right? So yes, hair is a big thing. Like before you're born, that's what they're wondering. What texture your hair is going to be when you're born. Nobody cares if you're healthy.
Yeah.
They care about hair. So the way societies, the way people think, that obviously gets taken into wherever, any kind of job that you walk into. And so here we have something that when you actually go in Google and you type in unprofessional, it's going to give you natural hair. It's going to give you curly hair. It's going to give you afro hair. So starting there already, there was a lack of representation in the media. I mean, actors, actresses, so in entertainment, whatever we watched, there was very little representation. And based on that alone, people already thought this is not beautiful. You know, so you're already competing with that standard. And then also the fact that it's seen as unprofessional, that had a big part in it, because school is there to teach you to navigate yourself in a professional setting.
Yes, and
so one school restricts you from uniformity and all of that, then they have a good set of workers, you know, good little civilians that are controlled by. And so the afro for many years, and we're talking Black Panthers times, has been an act of rebellion. So it wasn't like a rebellion, it is a rebellion. And so when that happens, obviously there's a form of defiance, and school is there to again train you to think like this. And when your hair is doing that and you allow yourself a little bit of freedom to embrace yourself, that already tells you that your brain is doing that. And that's not what they want. They want this. That's what school is.
Yo, I love those hand signals.
So defiance, yeah, that is defying. It's defying gravity, and it's also defying a lot of concepts that people just are not ready to wrap their minds around.
Right.
So yeah, it's crashed a lot.
I mean, do we owe a lot of that to our past circumstance as a country, like people not willing to defy things that were set in place because of where we come from? And why have those things been questioned, or at least sooner than the early 2000s? Because things changed in our country a very long time ago.
I think one thing that our country doesn't want to do, especially after 94, everyone was like, okay, this country was in a lot of disruption, so let's not further disrupt. So each and every status quo was left as is, and whenever people tried to challenge it, they would always be told, this is not the time. This is not the time. You'll have your time, but just not now. Because I've come to realize that as much as, because even all movements that have come about, hair discussions, fees must fall, land issue, they are not issues that just came about in after 2010. They've been issues that people before us have been bottling up and saying, you know what, just not now, because you're causing disruption. And I love the point you just said when I Candice, in saying that afros and curls have always been seen as an act of defiance, because when our parents in the 1960s were wearing their afros and their curls, they were doing it because they were trying to psychologically liberate themselves from an oppressive system.
Yes.
So essentially, they never understood why that is. But now the thing of, in the new South Africa, they were like, there's no need for you to be an act of defiance, not understanding that that is how our hair grows out of our heads. And I don't think there was enough education at the time to say, listen, straight does not mean neat. Straight does not mean healthy. No, straight does not mean beauty.
Yeah.
Beauty is found with the way that you were made. And everyone always says, "Man, oh my gosh, just remain the way you are." I can't remain the way I am if you consistently trying to remind me of how unneat my natural hair is. You know what I mean? So I really, really love the point of an act of defiance, or seeing our hair as an act of defiance, even though it was not. It was just us being ourselves, you know?
Do you not think that that's a little bit of a paradox in that, for example, in the 1960s, 70s, our parents were wearing their hair like that and did that as an act of defiance, but they've almost been, a lot of people who fought in movements before now have almost been suppressed or silenced and have experienced the pain of all of these years, and now we're like, listen, just do what we're telling you to do. Or this is beauty, or just accept the standard. It's a little bit crazy.
I think, you know what I think, man? I think,
yeah.
No, I think one thing about our parents is that as soon as they said, okay, we are all on an equal footing, everyone wanted to strive to whiteness, because whiteness has always been put as better. You understand what I mean? And so in terms of the media and everything else you saw outside, all you saw were a certain type of image. So everyone was like, okay, if this is the image that sells, this means that this is the image we should all be aiming towards. And that's why I say, if ever in my school there were teachers who were along with the society's debates, or in the context of natural hair, there would have been more people who would say, you know what, the hair policy or the hair code of conduct is very restricting of the identities that reside in this community and in this school. But no one took the need to say, okay, now that uzozibini, and everyone that was not seen as beautiful before is now being seen in mainstream media and they're killing it. Why can't we also move with the times? And for us, there was literally no one there to say, but guys, straight hair is not for black and brown bodies. We unfortunately were not born with straight hair. Our hair grows out and proud, you know what I mean?
Yo, Candice, you were about to say something? I think you said something.
Yeah, no, I think it depends who runs with it. Like I always say, there's we need to change the narrative, and our parents have a whole lot to unlearn. That's years of like, it was apartheid, colonialism. It's a whole lot of stuff to unlearn, and to expect them to get it, to expect a certain generation to just get it, it's not gonna happen. I related very much to a hair journey. Like when you cut everything off, you have that moment of self-reflection where you're just naked and you're exposed. And that's the part that people don't want to do. As a country, we are not ready to get naked and be exposed.
Yeah.
We really are. So that focuses out into everything that we do, all our policies when it comes to our schools and the way we conduct ourselves in every industry of this country, how it's managed, is that everyone is so afraid to do self-reflection, because that unlocks authenticity. And what does authenticity do? It comes across as defiance as first. So it rocks the boat. And you're very right when you say people don't want to rock the boat. And so I think our main focus needs to be on channeling our authenticity, because that's what brings about the defiance of that is what brings about change.
Yeah.
So we can only basically influence our children and our children's children to change the narrative in that way. Trying to fix what was is not going to help. You need to move forward. And it's the same thing with hair. You can't put it back. If it's off, it's off. You can't put it back. So you basically have to nurture it until it becomes what you want it to. And any living, growing thing that lives in its power and its authenticity, it has to go through this uncomfortable phase. And I think we just, I don't want to say the lucky ones, because it's like a bittersweet. We have to take the burn of it, but we are also going to reap the benefits of it. If I can put it that way.
Yeah, that is, I love how you liken that to a hair journey. I was watching a very interesting series that Zac Efron is doing called Down to Earth yesterday, and on this specific episode, they visited a school, and where they don't have a curriculum, they don't have lesson planning, etc. And the whole idea is that the kids must learn themselves. They must teach themselves. They have people guiding them. And I think, I don't want to say anything's impossible. I don't want to say that it's impossible for us to have a school system like that. But generally, our idea or our thoughts towards the schooling system is very different. We are telling people how to learn so much so that we kill the adventurous nature, or we kill what was Einstein or genius in a child. And a lot of the time,
authenticity, people trying authenticity.
Exactly. So and I like how you say it's almost like cutting off your hair, cutting down everything that we are now and everything, and unlearning.
Unlearning is hard, let me not even lie, because I remember when I cut my hair, coming from a background where hair is treated as such a prized possession, like in Black and colored communities, like your hair needs to be a certain way in order for you to be deemed as beautiful. And when I was like, you know what, this hair thing, everyone is fussing about it. If your hair is not done, it's going to be as though your mother doesn't take care of you, or whatever the case might be. And when I cut my hair, everyone in my community was like, are you trying to be a boy? Like, everyone was upset, but the hair is mine. And everyone couldn't understand what it is that I was trying to achieve. And now that I've gotten into a place where I'm so comfortable with my hair, I understand it more. Whenever I try and bring that piece of information that I've come to understand, bring that to the table for a community that views hair as such a prized possession, it is very, very tense. You know what I mean? Like, it's very tense because they see it as though you are trying to say that all that they've been taught as well is wrong. So unlearning is very uncomfortable and it's very tense, especially with elders who hold certain views very near and dear to them. You know what I mean? So unlearning, especially with an old generation, it is a lot.
Yeah.
It is
very much. So, we've spoken about quite a lot and spoken about all of our different schooling experiences. Just if you had to talk about your contribution to the natural hair community and where you see schooling in the future and how these policies can change, maybe give us a tidbit, a thought. Candice, you're not teaching at the moment, but you're still very much involved in community projects. And I see your Instagram as a natural community. A lot of girls and women get encouraged from your platform. Where do you see the future of hair policies in school and what you're doing?
I think we're going to get there. I think that we've got good forerunners now. We've got great representation. We've got brands like My Naturals, My Main Peoples. We've got brands like My Naturals that actually has a petition that people can sign to help, and not just to sign a petition, but to actively get involved in schools where we do a little bit of education on natural hair, which very much links into self-care. And because life orientation is a school subject, self-care should be part of life orientation. I do believe that. So we will finally get a chance to wiggle our way in there. We will. And I think everyone's well on their way, because we do have a lot of girls on university as well that's been starting support groups and stuff like that. So it really just needs to, we just need more people to avail themselves to the education thereof. That's one of my main focuses as a natural enthusiast brand, is to do the education of it and to help people unlearn what they've learned. And kind of just have a fresh look with fresh eyes. So all the initiatives I've been part of has been doing that. And we look forward to just making the circle bigger, basically, and having a lot more people join in. And when schools, commence back to normal, everyone will see what we've actually been planning this whole time.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned universities, because Thandile, that's where you are, and you are currently back at Res. Tell us, how are you guys functioning at Res, at least before lockdown happened, and where do you see your movement growing in the future?
Oh, so in the context of Stellenbosch, because we are predominantly in Stellenbosch, Stellenbosch is racially, some of these kids, it's like they've never seen black and brown bodies. So we still get those, can I touch your hair, type but we getting there, because before Coco happened, we were trying to have like talks where we as naturals, we create a safe space for naturals, because sometimes as people, we take those traumatic experiences with our hair from childhood to high school, and then when we're at university, we find ourselves in a place where we're like, okay, what do I do now? Am I free to be myself with my hair? Am I free to actually love this hair the way it grows out? So we're just trying to create a safe space around university girls, a place where we can all just unpack and learn together and just embrace together as a community, because black and brown bodies are really the minority in this space. So, and that we were trying to do also to make sure that it overlaps into like all different kind of high schools. So the thing is, we make sure that we have representation in the sense of socioeconomic class and in terms of like different schools, because the thing of when it comes to hair is also capitalized, unfortunately, because you tend to find that it is easier to be a natural if you have the money, and it's harder to become a natural if you don't, because natural hair products are expensive. You know what I mean? So the thing of fun, we're just trying to avail ourselves and to just have our hand in all just these many spheres. And definitely after Miss Coco, we are definitely going to do more of that, and also involved with the petition with my natural. So that's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I love this, all of the petitioning to change some policies, man. I think that's what we need to do. Also affect people at different points of the spectrum, so that we get people who end up moving into educational roles and then also into policy making roles who have been impacted by things that you guys have been doing.
Great.
Thank you so much. Doing all of the things. And eating the pizza, that's what you're going to be doing now, Candice.
Hey.
Thandile and I are like, okay, what are we going to have for supper now?
Listen, I'm still sitting here thinking, okay, and I'm in Res, imagine how sad.
Imagine. Yo.
Lady guys, I would say, but
thank you so much. I really appreciate talking to you. Can't wait to see this online, and it's going to be very soon. Please, can you do one last thing for me? You're going to say, hi, my name is, and what your name is, and then say, you're watching The Root. Thandile, we'll start with you.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Thandile Ngxikwe, and you're watching The Root.
Candice.
Okay, can I go? Me now?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. This is Candice Fielding, and you are watching The Root.
Amazing. Thank you, ladies.